So that's really where the genesis is, and an absolute exciting proposal that the commissioner has come to us with. And I think we ought to be honored that she's willing to do this. But I wanted to give you a background of how we got here and why we have that. And then obviously I'm going to open up to questions. We also have a representative. There's a couple of representatives online from Pacific House. Jerome Roberts is online, as well as Raphael. And these individuals ask questions now, but they're also willing to come back and to do, an informal presentation to the council, via Zoom of how they operate and what they do. But I can tell you that Kara and before her, Lisa, have a very strong working relationship with Pacific House. And again, they bring a lot of resources that we don't have. They have a tremendous donor base from Lower Fairfield County that we just can't tap into because people are not necessarily considering homelessness as big an issue as it is in Norwalk as it is in Danbury. So that's the challenge. That's where we're here. And with that, we'll open it up for discussion.
Mayor?
Councilman Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions that may be directed to a few different folks. So whoever has an answer, please, let me know. First of all, I want to thank the folks who from Pacific House, the commissioner who are here to answer questions that we may have. As you can imagine, there are some valid questions that many of us have surrounding this, and I understand that this is just the pass-through for the grant. So first off, what kind of services are they going to provide? Is it exactly the same as what we're providing now, Mayor? You basically were saying that just now.
Yep, I think Jerome Roberts is online with us, and Jerome, if you can give us an overview of Pacific House's programming, that would be a big help.
Thank you, Jerome.
He's here, right? Is he unmuted?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I speak, I just want to say that our executive director, Raphael Pagan, is on, and I would think that I would like to give him the opportunity to first address the council, and then I can follow up with that if you don't mind. Raphael?
Yeah, I didn't see him on. So Raphael, if you're
I'm sorry.
here,
No problem.
This technology.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting us here, and specifically on a macro perspective, let me share with you a little bit about who we are and our capacity. We run one of the largest emergency shelters in Fairfield County. At any given time up to recently, we have a 67 bed capacity contract with DOH, but during the winter months, we could typically go to over 100 individuals in our shelter. We have 35 years of experience in running the emergency shelter. In addition to that, we're a major provider for deeply affordable housing and PSH, which is permanent supportive housing for our consumers. Currently, we have 105 tenants that reside in our buildings, a total of 15 buildings in Stamford. We also have 2 buildings in Norwalk. So as an organization throughout the years, certainly we've been a leader in this space. We're also very proud of the innovations that we bring forward. Our emergency shelter is 24/7. It runs 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We provide multitude of services, including case management. Our primary focus with case management is really all about housing, and it's housing and housing. But in addition to that, we also provide 2 innovative programs. One of them is a built-in recovery program, which is kind of unique throughout the state, where many of our consumers who participate in our emergency shelter and have substance abuse issues can certainly be part of that program. We've had tremendous success with that. And in addition to that, we have a specific program for young adults Those are for young men between the ages of 18 and 24. We have a partnership with Optimus Health, and we certainly look forward to doing the same thing in Danbury, which is actually has a clinic located right in our emergency shelter where we could provide medical services for the guests that come to our emergency shelter. So as you could see, it's a relatively robust program. We really pride ourselves in innovation, and in addition to be able to really focus in on what HUD expects of us, as well as what the state and Open Door Fairfield County, which is really focusing on getting people in and out as quickly as possible and housing them. With that, I'll turn it over back to Jerome for any more specifics.
Thank you, Raphael. And thank you, everyone. So Pacific House, as our executive director has stated, provides case management, and we do person-centered case management. In addition to meals, we have a meal program, so it's emergency shelter plus meals. Last year, we provided well over 40,000 meals to some 300 and guests that were staying at Pacific House. Our case management, as Raphael said, is more about housing. Our focus is housing. Once someone gets into the shelter, the goal is to get them into the appropriate setting for them, whether that is an individual setting, housing option, or a shared living situation. It's just what fits that particular person. So that really is pretty much our shelter situation in a nutshell. Thank you.
I appreciate that. If I could have another question, Mr. Mayor. If so, oversight of sorry, if oversight of this facility, if Pacific House is going to be taking over, does the city still have oversight of what's going on? You mentioned that Kara and the health department continuously work with them now. But in a case where Pacific House does take over in this situation, will the city's health department continue to make sure that the operations are up to standard? Kara?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a partnership. This is going to be, we're going to work together. We're going to have a representative that's there that's going to be working with Pacific House. We're going to collaborate on things. I don't see this as something where Pacific House is going to start operations and just do whatever they want to do, have it be something completely separate from what the goal is. But I think that the main focus is that we all have the same goal, and we want to help and house our homeless population. And I think that Pacific House can best do that. So we can, work together to do that.
Yeah, I think you've got the right approach there. We still have to do all we can for the homeless population and to be able to help and assist in a living, their living ability, basically. And the final question, Mayor, I won't bother you anymore.
Okay.
You mentioned Super 8 is a potential spot. I read it as that was almost a done deal. So are there any other opportunities that are on the horizon that they're looking at, or have they made some kind of arrangement already with Super 8 to say the Super 8 say that they're willing to be bought? I mean, that's how I understood this.
Yeah, we have done a walkthrough and have visited the Super 8. There are negotiations are ongoing between Pacific House and Super 8, but I just want to be clear that this grant is not tied to that building. If that should fall through, let's say there's a bad environmental or something like that, Pacific House reserves the right to look at a different facility with both Kara's input and the team at Health and Housing, and of course the commissioner's input. If I could, Councilman, if you're agreeable, amenable, I'd like to just welcome and recognize our Commissioner Mosquero Bruno. And if she would like to just opine a little bit on that and just kind of, we made you come to the meeting, so I'd love for you to say a few words if you could, Commissioner.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councilmen and women, for allowing me to be in your meeting. And as the mayor, I mean, I can't tell you how pleased I have been working with the mayor and his staff. We had late nights and very challenging times at the beginning of the pandemic. And we got to a place where we really looking and walking the Motel A. It was really nice, very well taken care of. The services that Rafael brings to the table is exceptional, and having a partnership with the city, I think that is going to be a win-win situation. The state is providing resources. I always think that partnership at a local level, the nonprofits in the city are the way to go. We are there to support, and we have the availability of bringing resources from the federal government, and what better opportunity to be able to provide housing to the homeless population in a way that is safe, because of the pandemic is not going to go anyway or anywhere soon. So having this opportunity where people can actually be in a shelter, it can be housed, and it can be, in some units can be permanent housing, we couldn't ask for more. So I'm thanking the mayor for his willingness to take the opportunity to look into this new resource and opportunity to provide housing to the homeless population.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor, I'm sorry, I've got one final quick question.
No, go
Thank
ahead.
you. So if the grant is awarded, will this come back to the council for another review before it's finalized?
Well, we're not a party to the transaction. We're
Okay.
not buying the property. We won't be on the deed. We're not approving the sale price. That's between Pacific House and the
Okay.
owner of the hotel. So that wouldn't, I do think, though, it would be beneficial for Rafael and for Jerome to come back once they get up and once they get the deal done, to talk a little bit about how they handle and dive a little deeper into some of their services. I know they'd be willing to do that. I think it'd be a great education for the council to just know a little bit more about how things work and how they operate. We know, I know Kara knows because she deals with them every day, but if you don't do that and you're busy doing other things, you may not know. I think it would be helpful if we did that, just sort of a seminar, if you will.
I agree. That's great. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Mayor, this is Rafael. I would certainly love to do that. Councilman Santos, let me just share with you that we have 35 years of working in Stamford with the government of Stamford. It's been a really very positive relationship with both the council and the mayors throughout the years. I personally have had 13 years of working with 3 different mayors, and it's been very, very fruitful. I could tell you that the Business Council in Stamford has us on speed dial because we really work closely with them. We understand the importance of being good neighbors and certainly working collaboratively with not just city government, for business as well. Because, like everything else, homelessness has an impact on everyone.
Sure.
So we really realize that there's a lot of value to bring in and collaborate with the business sector, not just the city in itself. And I think we hope that we could bring that experience and that expertise and our willingness to Danbury and be able to create the kind of environment that's really very positive and one that we can depend on each other. And I'll tell you, there'll be times when we will all agree to agree, and then maybe sometimes we may agree to disagree. Well, one thing we'll never disagree with is the passion and the compassion we have towards and our mission. And that I can guarantee you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McGinn.
I also just want to thank the commissioner for choosing Danbury to be the first in the state. And she had choices to make, and we got together and she said, let's work together. And I said, great. So Commissioner, I want to publicly thank you for your vision, your courage. Of course, Rafael gets 1,000 thanks all the time for the work. But
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Councilman Kabarsek, you have the floor. Yes.
Yeah, winter's coming, so it sounds like there's a good likelihood that we will actually get the grant. But what does the timeline look like for this sort of operation to get? And the other question I have, we're talking about the effect that the virus is connected with this, but this is a long-range solution to the homeless in Danbury, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah, Bob, it really ticks off a lot of boxes. One is it helps with making sure that we can segregate people appropriately regarding COVID-19. And the other piece is that winter is coming and it is a longer range. There's enough capacity in there to handle what we think is our current point in time count, but there's always going to be, that always fluctuates with the weather. I will also say that this is it's something that has to happen sooner rather than later. And so negotiations are ongoing, but they are waiting on us to get this piece through so that they can actually go back to Super 8. And, we don't want to show our hand because, it's like anything else, right? If you go to buy a piece of property and you say, hey, I got 5 million to spend, you're going to spend 5 million. So we want the ability to be able to leverage other properties against Super 8 and say, all right, we'll go somewhere else if this doesn't work. But just to emphasize, the city is not a party to this transaction. We simply are using our CDBG process to help them get the money to Pacific House so that they can consummate the transaction.
Does the state sort of oversee and the accountability and so forth of this group? And the other question is it non-denominational, the group?
First of all, I'll have Raphael answer the non-denominational question, but both the state and local government has oversight responsibilities here. So Kara will be there. She won't be, living there, but she will be conducting walkthroughs or her designee. She'll be meeting with Raphael and his team and Jerome. What do you guys need? What can we do here? I would love to bring in Dorothy Day as well to say, what do you guys, because they know a lot of our clients and our guests and be able to work with them. So I think we've got a lot of resources that we can leverage here. But Raphael, as far as the non-denominational thing, you might want to.
Yes, we are non-denominational. We certainly are private enterprise. Although we're very fortunate that we get supported by many of the local churches of all denominations in Stamford, Norwalk area. And we're certainly very appreciative of their support of us. I also pride ourselves in really collaborating with a lot of our partners, including other nonprofits that provide services in Stamford, and we certainly look forward to doing the same thing in Danbury, and we've actually have already started reaching out to many of them, including Catholic Charities and some others as we move forward in this endeavor. So, because it really takes a big family to address all the multitudes of issues that we think have an impact on homeless, on the delivery of services for the homeless. So yes, we certainly work, we have oversight that gets provided by both the state through our state contracts. We also have city contracts that we have to abide by. And in Stamford, we also have a Demas contract that we have to certainly be responsible to them as well. And I anticipate that we certainly work very closely with the Department of Health and other departments that have fire department and the police department, which is really crucial in keeping good relationships so that we could work together in providing the needs that are necessary for the homeless population. So it really, there's a lot of oversight and a lot of interaction and support working collaboratively.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Habitak. Further questions for any of our guests or for Kara or me? Mr. John Esposito.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a question I'll just direct to you, if that's all right. I know this is just merely a application to apply for the block grant. So I hope my question's not out of order by asking, is this meant to be a permanent solution for homeless, or is this to get us through COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I think it's a little of both, to be frank with you, John. And I think it's more than just an application. There is a commitment from the federal government to the state to provide this money, this federal money for this cohort of people during COVID-19. But as the commissioner said, and as Raphael said, COVID-19 is not, it's not going to go away anytime soon. You know, it's a multi-year issue that we're going to be dealing with. So in the end, I think it really does become a permanent piece, not the complete solution, because we know homelessness, you have to attack it from many different directions, but it certainly is a piece of helping people on an emergency basis find shelter right away and get a caseworker on them and get them on the path to a single room occupancy or with services or some kind of permanent housing.
Yeah, I'm actually glad to hear that. You know, I mean, I would like to get through COVID-19 a lot faster than a few years, but I actually have no issue with this being a permanent solution for our homeless. So I'll definitely be voting in favor for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Mr. Fred Visconti.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have been trying to do our best to do what we can for the downtown area, including the homeless people and so on and so on. We've been spent a lot of money, a lot of time and energy. I think looking at this, I did look up their workings in Stanford, and they are well liked. They do a good job. So I look forward to hopefully getting this taken care of and putting us in the right direction to help everyone out, the homeless and the people that are downtown in the stores and so on. So I would definitely go along with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Visconti. Further questions or comments? Mr. Sinisi?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I think it's a very good idea that we do have some type of, deeper communications with them as we move forward with this, because there's a lot of questions that are still out there regarding our homeless population, beyond just having a place for them to stay. I know, like, for example, there's an issue regarding women with children, which is, I don't know if this specific house even addresses, because, I did some research on them and I didn't see in the website anyway, and see anything where that is addressed in detail or not. So as we move forward, I think this is a good idea as we move forward. I still believe that the New Street shelter, I think that eventually that's going to phase out eventually, whether that property is sold or repurposed for another reason. I think that's going to be probably, it's old technology with the single bay type of beds. And I think this new thing regarding Pacific House is probably the way it goes. Individual rooms is better than is what we need to continue doing. But we still need more information as we move forward with this. So I'm going to support I'm going to support it tonight, and I look forward to working with them as we continue on the path here. Thank you.
If I may, just you're correct. In our emergency shelter, we do not provide emergency shelter for families, but we do provide housing for families who were formerly homeless. So it's something that we certainly is part of what we do, and we certainly have a level of experience working with families on that setting. And wherever we don't have, we hope our partners will support our efforts to certainly support and augment whatever capacity we might need, whether it's Catholic Charities or anyone else that's out there. So that's a good point, and it's a very important one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion.
Your Honor.
Mr. Rotello.
Thanks, Your Honor. I'm wondering if a representative from Phoenix House could just walk me through what would normally happen. I mean, look, we're talking about a motel situation. I've actually gotten calls from some of the clients in the motel who now have Section 8 vouchers looking for more permanent housing. But essentially, we've got people in this motel who are staying there night after night after night. They're almost staying there on a long-term basis. But we have a sort of staccato homeless problem, particularly in times of extremely bad weather, extremely cold weather. Well, we'll have guys who really don't want to stay in a homeless shelter, but are forced to by external circumstance to seek shelter for 1 or 2 nights during these particularly bitter times. And that was what New Street did. It's what the overflow shelter at Dorothy Day did. It's what the shelters at the First Congregational Church did. So I'm wondering if the representatives from Phoenix House can walk me through how that's going to work. If they've got their clients in the motel, what happens on February 16th when the mercury drops down to 6 degrees? What do they drive around looking for people who might be under bridges? Do those people make their way somehow to the Super 8 motel, if that indeed becomes the instrument that they're using? If they could just bring me through that, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure. I think the really positive aspect of all this, that the hotel provides so much more added capacity to be able to accommodate needs as it increases or decreases. So I could tell you that in Stamford, our policy is that we never let anyone be out in the cold. There have been times where we've had to go up to over 100 people and put people in cuts. Now, with that said, times are a little different now. And through COVID, we could not operate the way we normally would operate. But the good part about this hotel is that it gives us much more capacity than we would have in Stamford, for example, where right now I'm dealing with lowering the number of beds to about 40 to 42. Here, if there's a need to expand, we got the ability and the capacity to do so and do it safely. The other thing we are very well experienced in, and there we've immediately reached out to Catholic Charities, is outreach, which is an important component on dealing with people that are homeless, especially those that are either chronically homeless or unsheltered for a very long time. So in collaboration with them, we do anticipate being able to identify who they are, where they are, be able to follow them through the HMIS system, and certainly whenever they're ready to come in, we will certainly take them in and work with them. So certainly no one would be denied shelter who really needs shelter. And this facility would allow us to do that.
Okay, we've had discussions ongoing with Nuvance. They have hospitals in the region, and they've told us, particularly during March, during the height of the COVID pandemic, that if Danbury Hospital filled up, they could move people to Norwalk. Norwalk filled up, they could move people to another structure. Do you foresee doing that now that you've got Danbury, Norwalk, and Stamford? Could you foresee moving clients from, if you had an overflow situation in Stamford, bringing them up to Danbury, or taking Danbury clients down to Norwalk? Now that you've got sort of these 3 communities with these issues, do you have the capability to move one from one town to another?
Well, we certainly have vehicles that allow us to be able to transport people where and when necessary. But with that said, my experience has been that usually our guests prefer staying within their community. And to the extent possible, we really are committed to trying to do that. But again, there are circumstances that might require something different. I just mentioned earlier, we have a recovery program in the emergency shelter. Well, if there's a resident in Danbury that wants to avail themselves of recovery services and they're not available within the Danbury community, if we have the capacity, we would offer those services to them. So there may be circumstances where that may occur. If a young adult happens to come to the emergency shelter in Danbury, and we have a specialized service that everyone in Fairfield County refers to us, we certainly will make that available to them and provide the transportation and get them into our unit where we could provide those specialized services. So is there a possibility to be able to go back and forth? Yes, depending on what the issues are, the circumstances, and more importantly, the need of that particular individual.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for the clarity. I appreciate that. Thanks, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Seeing none then, I will try your minds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner, for everything. You have been fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you, and have a good night.
And Raphael, Jerome, you're pretty good too.
Thank you so much, and we look
Thank you.
forward to our continued collaboration. Everyone be well and stay
Be
safe.
well.
And by the way, Mayor, the food was delicious. So I'm
Good,
looking
I'm glad
forward
you
to
liked
go
the
back to Danbury.
They're already spending money in Danbury, see?
Yes.
Talk soon.
So long,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Items 8 and 9 and 10 were on consent. Mr. President, department reports.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I move that we waive the reading of all departmental reports as all members have copies, and copies are available for review online and in the office of the legislative assistant.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded by Councilman Santos. Discussion under department reports. I think I have most of the department heads online.
Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. John Esposito.
Thank you, sir. I have a question for Coordinator Sean Stillman, if he's present.
He is on, yes. Mr. Stillman.
I am here, if you can hear me.
I can hear you, sir. Thank you. I noted in your report that you mentioned the property at 21 Spring Street, the Octagon House, has had some issues with being broken into and residents dumping garbage on the premises. What's the status with that property? Do you know what's going on over there?
As far as the blighted conditions that resolved within 24 hours, we were doing random inspections in the area and noted garbage that was tossed over the fence.
Mhm.
Contacted our friends at the highway department, who immediately were able to get us access. We didn't find anything to tie anybody to, who did the dumping, but it was all cleaned up within 24 hours.
Is this an ongoing problem?
I wouldn't say it's an ongoing problem. No, it's been known to happen, but it's not that common. But we were taken aback as to how much stuff was there, mostly discarded furniture, mattresses, some old wood, old construction debris.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, if I could ask you, I guess my question really would have been better directed to you. What is the city's plans for that property?
Yeah, so we've been working, Sharon's been working her way through the State Historic Properties Commission, or SHPA. And they are, along with Richter House, can take longer than, I'm trying to be diplomatic here, can take longer than we would like. We do have some money set aside in two separate budgets for stabilization and eventual renovations, and to bring it back up to status of where we want it. However, we need to get the authority because it is deemed a historic property, not on the list of registry, but it is a historic property. So it's been taken longer than we would like. And I think there's a federal component to that as well. So it's been a project, and COVID has definitely slowed down the process of the paperwork that's needed to be filed, and obviously the work that we're doing here. So we're a little frustrated by it, but we do anticipate getting something moving out there. And Richter House too. They're both in the same boat.
I know for the Octagon House, once upon a time, the plan was to put a police substation there. Is that still part of the plan or no?
Well, that was definitely on the table, and that was due primarily to the challenges that were happening at both Dorothy Day and at New Street. Given of what happens in the future with how we manage our homeless population, that may or may not be still necessary, but we definitely could create something like that there. There's enough space on the ground floor and the first floor. The top floor is really unusable because it would require significant exterior renovations to the building for an elevator and for public access. So basically storage. We have talked to Bridget Girton about potentially partnering with the museum for some of that storage space and for some of the office space. So it's still an ongoing project, but first we've got to bring it up to standard, and Sean did a great job. There was some construction in that area. People just dump stuff everywhere from the construction that went on onto our property. So we're working on that.
Okay, while I got you on the mic, I had another question about the use of the city town park. Maybe I should ask Mr. Nicoplanis if he wants to chime in on this. I had a conversation with a member that organizes the Pet Expo in October, and they were up in the air about if they were going to be able to, have their outdoor expo or not. Under the governor's order, they'd be in compliance with the outdoor activity. So, but they hadn't gotten an answer from the city. So I wondered if anybody would want to comment on that at all.
Yeah, as a fan of all things, all pets everywhere, including the few that make appearance at our meetings every month, I will tell you that we are really putting all of our proposed events on hold right now, given the COVID spike that we're seeing here in Danbury. We may actually be rolling back some of the phase 2 things that we've done. It'll just depend on what these future numbers look like.
Yeah.
We're very leery of having any kind of large scale event. There are things that we can't control, right? We can't control a spontaneous protest or rally, but there are things that we can control. So we have a duty to control the things that we can and to manage the things that we can't. And that's really where we're at right now. So we have not booked things, and we've been very clear, both at Hatters Park and at the town park. Although I do that's a good event. I like that event.
Yeah, completely understandable, especially with our current numbers rising. So absolutely. They were just looking for an answer. Just real briefly, and thank you for answering my questions, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Mr. Idarola for his update on the Hearthstone Castle abatement. It's a very detailed update, and I appreciate all the safety precautions being taken. And also, I want to extend my thanks to the Director of Elderly Services, Director Tamanio. I read through her report as well, and it looks like she's doing a really great job with our seniors. Pardon me, with our seniors during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Further discussion, Mr. Taversack.
A few people around my area, including myself, have been involved in cleanup, and we've been asked if there's going to be a city pickup of, the brush and stuff, and the people are now clearing from their backyards and so forth, like there was in the past. And if so, what the timetable would be. And I thought I'd bring it up, and you could give us an answer on that, and a time, a general timetable.
So if you remember during the Snowtober storm, we received a FEMA grant to conduct a cleanup with an excess of $4 million. We stored the material at Kennedy, what is now Kennedy Flats, and processed it there. And we do not have access to that grant money, and FEMA has not acknowledged the request to our federal partners to provide that money. So until we get that, we won't be doing that kind of cleanup. We've been instructing people to bring their material to Ferris Mulch Products, which will take it for free. But we are not letting people drag their backyard tree up to the front of their lawn and then have us come by and pick it up. We just don't have the resources to do that. And we're not going to be reimbursed for it. So it's just a different time period. And we're hoping that changes, and I will certainly update you if it does.
Okay, I suggest that if it does, maybe a robocall, because so many people are, really concerned with this. A lot of it's not just trees; you're talking limbs and stuff like that. It's, there's a variety of stuff. I don't know where you draw the line on what's picked up and what's not picked up.
Yeah, I mean, we're people that are calling the mayor's office. We're telling them that they have to dispose of their own material, and I would advise that you do the same thing. Because I can't promise that there'll be a program in place, and the last thing somebody wants to see is a pile of brush at the end of their road or the end of their lawn or whatever. It's very, very expensive, and given all of the other expenses we have, getting our schools open and everything else, we just don't have the resources to do that without any support from FEMA. There's just no way we can do that. That was Antonio's on. He can tell you that we were $5+ million. I mean, we put $1.5 million of our own, and we got about $4 million from the feds.
Okay, there will be a lot of disappointed people, but okay, at least we know.
I get it. I understand.
Your Honor,
Yes. Mr. Sinisi, then Mr. Alves.
thank you, Your Honor. Just 2 points. With garden ferrous mulch, it is free for for some mulch, for some of the brush. But if the brush is over a certain diameter, they will charge you. Is that true or not true?
2 inches. 2 inches.
2 inches. I believe, and I'll look that up for you. Let me talk
2
to
inches.
Antonio. Antonio's at the Cape this week on vacation, but I think I got to look that up. I think there was a increase to the size that you could drop off there, but I will double check on that before I say that.
I will say we've had everyone call them directly with what they have, because I never
Yeah.
know what's in someone's yard when they're calling.
So what we best thing to do is direct them to call Ferris directly and they'll go through them. But I think they're taking it. But I don't want to. I want to be. I'll get back to you, Ben.
Right. And the other thing is, I think I spoke to you about this a few weeks back. Now, over the last few weeks, I've been starting to see a lot of mattresses and couches, furniture that people are tending to leaving on the side of the road. I think Sean Stillman would probably agree with that. The people are starting to dump things out, it looks like. And I know I mentioned something about the Oak Ridge location, about people being able to drop that stuff off for free, because we used to have the Clean City Day, and we're not having that this year. But you mentioned something about doing something in October. Is that still something you're looking into?
We'd like to pull that off before the snow flies. Oak Ridge has said we can do a bulky waste drop off day like we've done in the past. We could do it in early November or late October. Again, I worry about volunteers, but I know you guys have been great. I've been really good about helping and manning sites and things like that, and unloading cars. I think it's been a great hedge against people dropping stuff off like you've seen. So, and Oak Ridge is absolutely willing to do it. So we are working on that. It's just, can we pull this off, work with Kara to make sure that we're complying with the guidelines, which we probably could. And I think we can, probably do that. I just wanted to give as much time as we can to get through the pandemic, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. So we might just do it anyway. So the answer is yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Alves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really what I just wanted to do was extend a thank you on behalf of some constituents to the Public Works Department and yourself on some activity on the Long Ridge Road area. We've been having issues here in the neighborhood with dumping for years now. And through conversations with us and other leaders in other communities, you guys move forward and are putting boulders on the side of the road that's really going to, well, we hope, limit the parking. And I just wanted to make the public thank you to everybody involved in that. The neighborhood is really happy with that. So thank you.
You're welcome. We'll keep after it. It's been an interesting summer.
Your Honor?
Yes, Mr. Rotello.
Okay, a couple of things. First, I want to thank Sean Stillman. We had a little clog in Blind Brook. Blind Brook can get very narrow, 2.5, 3 feet tops. We had a stump or some debris in there. I noticed it when I was jogging by. I called Sean. Sean responded and cleared that up quickly. But I just want to be clear about this point about the trees. I remember in the Snowtober and also in Sandy that we had a program where people could bring their trees to the curb. They were supposed to be city trees, only supposed to apply to city trees. But we were pretty liberal in the whole process, and people were dragging their trees out of their side and backyards. And I understand that we can't afford to do that now, but are you saying, this is what I want to clear up, are you saying that the city trees themselves, the trees that are in the easement between the sidewalk and the street, that those trees are now, the cleanup of those trees are now the responsibility of the homeowners themselves and not the city, even though they're city trees, or there's something that I missed on there? Thanks.
No, thanks for the opportunity to clarify that. By the way, you and Antonio can hook up because you're in the same area.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Where are you going with that?
That could be dangerous. But anyways, if it's a city tree in the city easement, right, on either side of the road, and it's obvious, right, because you could tell because the stump is broken and whatever, we will collect it. It's going to take time, but we will get it. However, we, as you mentioned, we did have a phenomenon. People were, they were cutting and clearing in their backyards and dragging it up. And we were taking, and we took tons and tons and tons of material that we cannot do this time.
Okay. Yeah, there were trees that were petrified that had been there since the colonial days with cannonballs in them, and people were dragging them out. Let's get rid of them. We're obviously not doing that, but if it's a city tree and there's some damage and there's some limbs, they will be cleared eventually by the city. Okay,
It's gonna
thank you.
take a while, but we'll get it done.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, further discussion under department reports. Mr. Cobble.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't want to raise your blood pressure with this, but I just want to say thank you to you, your office, Public Works Department, City Tree Department, for again going well above and beyond what's required by us in these type of storms to do tree cleanup. That really should be a process of Eversource's responsibility, but realizing we'd never get roads open for a week. Just want to thank you, the Tree Department, Public Works, for the great job they did getting that stuff cleaned up so that the city was passable. So thank you to you and to Public Works.
Okay, you're welcome. Mr. Salvatore.
Yeah, I just want to, thank Chief Rittenhauer and Chief O'Masta for the police department and the fire department responses and the volunteer fire department responses, because I know they were busy for quite a few days there at the beginning of VCES. So I just need to make sure that they know that we're very appreciative of all the work they did.
Yes, absolutely. And special thanks to the volunteers who manned the water stations for us. And we're really good at working with our residents at just charging stations and just calming people down. Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess this could be to you, through you. Can we get an update on some of the paving status, maybe where we are budget-wise, just general conversation?
Sure, we are plugging away on some pretty big projects right now. Grand Street, as you all know, was an absolute disaster. So that's being worked on. It's scoped. It's laid out. We are going to add on Long Ridge tonight, so we can continue that process. Bacchus Avenue is another area, that long stretch there, that 4-laner out by the mall is being worked on. We've completed some projects up around the high school. Chambers Road has just been finished, as well as some of those side streets, Henso and whatever, that are across from the high school, that are a little farther up on Clapboard Ridge. Karen Road has been completed. There's been, and Tim's probably online, he can certainly be more detailed, but it's been a very active and engaged paving season. We got more work to do, and we're hoping the snow lays off so we can keep, excuse the pun, but grinding away at it and, knock off some of these bigger roads. Tim Nolan, is he on?
Yeah.
Tim, you want to just kind of fill us in on, okay, what streets you got done so far and where you are?
Yeah, we just completed Mountainville and Southern Boulevard, which are.
All right, Mountainville, Southern Boulevard. We lost you, Tim. Yeah, he's been having internet connectivity issues. Okay, so, but we've been Southern Boulevard, Mountainville's been completed, and we're going to keep working. Grant Street's a little more work, but go ahead, Tim, back on.
Memorial Drive was completed, which was necessary. We're just finished Chambers. We're having some difficulty with some of the ancillary roads up there that have some poles that need to be relocated. We're working on. So we're shifting some gears. Like you said, we're going to be paving Bacchus since we've got the drainage and the ADA requirements complete this year, originally for next year, but we have it so that we can pave it. So we're jumping to that. We're going to be on Beckerly and Farm, and the roads around the entrance, the side entrance to the DHS. So that will be, that's been long on our ticket. And we're also working towards next year's paving by beginning drainage on Grand, as well as up on Eastview and above the high school in the neighborhoods up there. So we have also have a program of road maintenance that we just completed bidding on and are securing the contractors. So it's not rebuilding of roads. Once you see it, you'll understand that we're going to be extending the life of existing roads as they reach a point in their life that they can still be saved, but don't have to be rebuilt at the dollars it costs for rebuilding. And we're going to be micro paving, and we're going to be crack sealing, so on and so forth. So you're going to see that in the fall as well, where we can get a lot of bang for our buck at a decreased dollar, which also means we're going to get more roads done and put that into the cycle of completion. It extends how many miles of road we have done a year. And the end goal is we have 240 miles of road that we have to, get done over a cycle. So it's all in the program.
Yes, it is a long road, excuse the pun, but things are looking good out there. I mean, you guys are doing stuff I didn't really even expect to get done. So keep it up. We're a lot of people are happy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on department reports? Seeing none, then I'll try your minds acceptance of the reports. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. We have one add-on for this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I make a motion that we add on item number 12, improvements, alterations to scenic portions of Long Ridge Road.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Councilman Rotello. Any discussion about adding this on? All in favor of adding it on signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, any nays? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. President, we do have a department, we do have a ad hoc report. Do you want to waive the reading of the report?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I'll waive the reading of the committee report as all members have copies.
Motion made and seconded.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of waiving the reading of the report signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. This time I'll entertain a motion for, this would be listed as item 11, add-on, improvements, alterations along Ridge Road. Mr.
So
Calvin.
moved.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I move that we receive the ad hoc committee's report and refer the proposed map and other documentation of the alteration and paving of the scenic road portion of Long Ridge Road to the Danbury Planning Commission for a report and further proceedings as required by City Code Section 42-187D.
Second.
A motion made and seconded. Just a quick discussion for you. The requirements under the scenic road, the challenge here is that some of Long Ridge is not in the scenic road designation and some is, but the requirements under the scenic road ordinance are certainly deep and complex. So while our design and preparation goes in place, I'll be working through the federal, Highway Administration to get this approved and fast tracked. And I'll be using some of our federal contacts to do that, and which should not be an issue. I've already kind of laid the groundwork there. So we can get this thing done as fast as humanly possible, but also meet the requirements of the scenic road ordinance. Mr. Visconti.
Thank you, Your Honor. To Mr. Pinder, if I may.
Les.
Les, in regards to
I'm here.
Long Ridge Road, and I think the mayor just said a few words on what has to be done. Will we have to go to the state for any reason? I mean, I have all of the original ad hoc meetings that was done to give them a scenic part of the road as being scenic road. Or can we just, get things done here and hopefully get some work done this year, if not, then in early spring?
Councilman Visconti, best efforts are controlled by what the law says and what we can do to fast track it through other outside assistance. Mayor mentioned the federal highway process. You had mentioned the state being involved in this when it was first adopted. I haven't done a deep dive on that. I don't see anything in the ordinance about that. If the state has a way to help us, Mr. Nolan and I can certainly work together to try to find out what that is to help. If there's a way to use that to expedite it, we'll certainly bootstrap that right in for you. But I have to really look at that and drill down. But right now, the main thing is, to the extent that you want to do this, that you move this forward in the process, even as we look at any other alternatives.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Visconti, I just want to say that it's my understanding there's no state requirement to get them involved, except of course the federal partners, which we can. But I will say that the council as a whole, don't ever name anything ever a scenic road ever.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I love scenic roads. Maybe you could just put a sign up saying this is a scenic road per the city of Danbury, but don't use the federal designation because it just overcomplicates maintenance. But that's all I have to say. That's just an editorial comment. Further discussion.
Your Honor?
Yep.
If I could just echo that, Ben and I had an issue on Oleana back during that crazy October snowstorm when those poor guys lost power for 8 days. Joe Veccarino not only lost power, but he had a gas generator, and it was his bad luck that his furnace was acting up. So he called CL&P, and he had like a 1918 furnace. And as soon as they saw that, they red tagged him, shut down his gas and shut down his generator. So now he doesn't have electricity and he doesn't have gas. It was awful. So we thought maybe we could name Oleana a scenic road because it would then qualify for special funds under the state program for tree trimming. So this wouldn't happen again. The state was broke, so we didn't go down that road. But then as we looked into it, it turned out there were so many qualifications and onerous, restrictions that we decided that this was really a bad thing to do. So we didn't do it. And there's still people on Oleana who were mad at us for promising that we'd make them a scenic road. I think we did them a favor by not doing that. But this is certainly the case on Long Ridge. But I mean, could 18 months? Is there like a number that we could kind of just sort of, Long Ridge is, it's like 1 car wide. Is there something that we can do in the next 2 years? Do you think that we can get this done? Is it, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but could we get it done in the next 2 years?
We're not waiting for you to pay this truck. If I have to carry asphalt out there myself by the bucket, we're going to do it. I'll get it done. Any other comments? Seeing none, let's take the step and get moving on this. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Just one thing I just want to mention to the council before we break for the evening. We are filing with PURA our comments as interveners in their hearing as it relates to Eversource. As you know, I've been pretty upset at their response and reaction to Danbury. We are preparing a lawsuit, but are not filing it until we understand the process that PURA has in place to see if we can get a remedy through them first to save us money. And we are roping in other cities and towns to participate with us in potential litigation if it comes to that. We're not there yet because there is an administrative remedy. And if we don't follow this remedy, then what'll happen is if we went to court, the judge would probably say, hey, you got to go file, you got to exhaust all your administrative pathways before you come to me. So we want to do that first, and that hearing is next week. I'll also be testifying at the Energy and Technology public hearing about the new bill that was announced today, which has some really good points to it. So I want to applaud the legislators, including Councilman Arcani, State Representative Arcani, and other folks that have put this together, and it'll be very helpful. So I just wanted to give you kind of an update where we are on that. We'll certainly circle back to you if I have more information for you. We'll have Elisa do an email, or I'll do an email out to everybody so you know where we are. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
No committees. Motion been made by John, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Haversack. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
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 All right, see you in like a week and a half.